Hello and welcome to the show. I am here on Gran Turismo 6 with a little bit of a challenge. Seeing as I went to the Goodwood Festival of Speed last week, I fancied sort of taking some cars up the hill climb course and seeing how different vehicles compared. To start with, just for a little bit of fun, I decided to take my Mazda MX-5. This is literally as close to my car as I will probably ever get in a game. It's the same engine, the 1.8. It's pretty much, I think, the same year. It's the exact same colour. The only difference between this and my car is mine has the Mazda Speed body kit on it, so front bumper's slightly different, side skirts and a spoiler, and that's it. It's literally as close as I'm ever going to get to my car, and it was good fun taking this little car up the course. We were flat out through the Flint Wall, about 80 miles an hour through there to change direction. It's okay. It's always likely to struggle a little bit. It's only got 142 horsepower compared to the likes of the race cars and so on that we will take up, that I took up later. But yeah, it was a good fun little car to drive. A 1 minute 3.7 for my Mazda, which is pretty damn respectable for a low-powered road car. In 18th place, the first of the proper contenders, the Blitz Skyline, a 52.8. Now, I was just sort of going through, picking out random cars. I'm rather limited to what I could do because of the crappy money system in Gran Turismo. I didn't have a huge amount of money to spend on cars, and I wanted to have some sort of tuned-up Japanese vehicles. I saw this one, it looked the part, and I bought it. What I didn't realise, I was guessing this is supposed to be a drift car. It came on comfort tyres. I can't remember quite which particular comfort ones, but it didn't have particularly good tyres, meaning that actual cornering grip was terrible, and all it wanted to do was slide around. It is a very powerful car, 582 horsepower and rear-wheel drive converted. But you had to be incredibly careful with putting the power down because the back end just wanted to slide around. It was a good fun challenge. Instead, I mean, a 52-second time is not that bad. You can see the wiggle we get on through the final corner. But yeah, probably not quite designed for this sort of thing. In 17th place, we have the Auto Union Type C, a 51.908. That is a remarkably impressive time for such an old car. The first sector that we're doing here is it's just before that bridge there. This was doing a 5.3 second to get to there, which is as fast as a lot of the race cars that will come later. That's the acceleration you get from this vehicle. Again, down this section it was getting up to 140 miles an hour. And then you jump on the brakes and it gets stopped remarkably. But the brakes are far better than I ever expected. And the problem with it is actual cornering. You just cannot take the speed through the corners like through Flint Wall here. You have to really slow the car down because it just doesn't have, I mean, look at the size of the tyres. They're tiny. It just doesn't have the grip through the turns. So you really have to slow it down. But once you've got it turned, you can unleash the power, and it really is very, very fast. Up across the finish line, it was doing about 120 miles an hour. You had to have a lift. The only car that you actually had to have a lift through that final corner. In 16th place, the Dodge Viper ACR, a 50.957. Put that in perspective, that's only a second quicker than the Auto Union. This is a very, very good car. It's of incredibly good handling, very powerful road-going race car, essentially. The Auto Union was only a second behind it. That says a lot about the Auto Union. I mean, it's a 50.9 is a very quick time for a road car, but yeah, the Auto Union, mighty impressively fast. The Viper, well, as you would expect, it is a very, very good car to drive around here. It's got plenty of grip. You can have plenty of bravery through the Flint Wall with this vehicle if you want. Second to last quarter, I think, is just as terrifying as the Flint Wall there. It's sort of completely blind and incredibly narrow. A couple of times I was, you could see I was pushing this car. They had a little bit of a wheel on the dirt here and there. Didn't really notice it during the run itself, aside from the first corner. But yeah, still not a bad time from the Dodge. Up next, a Mazda, a tuned RX-7. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name because I know I'll get it wrong and annoy people. This was, the actual fact, one of the least powerful of the cars if we don't include my MX-5. It only has 366 horsepower. I didn't realise it was quite that down on power compared to the vehicles that it was racing against. So yeah, again, a similar story with this vehicle in that it was very good through the turns. It was a nice handling car. We just lacked the speed on the acceleration bits, and yeah, that's where it lost some time. I mean, it was quick. through the flint wall. You can be brave through here. Plenty of grip for getting away with that, and the back end didn't want to move around at all. It was a nice handling car, but we just lacked the speed overall. We just couldn't really carry the speed across the finish line. It's only 112 miles an hour for the RX-7, so yeah, it just didn't have the power. And speaking of power, we have the Oldsmobile Tornado. I call it the Tornado, but it's spelt slightly differently. Never mind. This one has 1,071 horsepower. 1,071 horsepower in a 1966 Oldsmobile. That's an awful lot of power in a really rather old car. It is phenomenally fast. 145 miles an hour down here by the time you jump on the brakes. And again, it was another car that really surprised me with how well it got slowed down. It wasn't as ridiculously terrifying as I was expecting a 1,000 horsepower muscle car to be going up this course. And again, doing a 48.7 in this thing is, I thought, really rather impressive. It's definitely one of the star cars of this little challenge, going that quickly with such a crazy vehicle. It's 132 miles an hour across the finish line. The Oldsmobile was, yeah, mighty impressive. In 13th place, the Renault Megane Trophy, 48.725, another relatively low horsepower car. Actually, I think this one has slightly less horsepower than the Mazda. Yes, indeed it does, 359. It's a similar story between this and the Mazda. This is a slightly quicker accelerating car. It's a little bit lighter than the Mazda, but it's still the same. It's underpowered compared to the other vehicles that drive. Nice handling car, and again, a 48.7 is not too bad at all in this vehicle. But yeah, it just lacks that little bit of acceleration. Also, the Megane was the first car to go. The Corvette that'll come later being the second car. I will be honest, them two cars ran with traction control on because I completely forgot that you have to turn it off individually for vehicles. I don't think it made any difference to the times at all, because off the line, the rest of the course it would never even come on. Off the line, it bogs down if you have traction control. It may even be ever so slightly slower using it, in all honesty. So yeah, they did have that. It was a slight mistake from me, but I don't think it affected it that much. Into 12th we have a Mitsubishi Evo with a 48.0. This is one of the cars that I believe is a sort of a Gran Turismo tuned vehicle. So if they've turned an Evo 10 into a rally car, four-wheel drive, so of course we do get a very, very quick launch off the line. 441 horsepower, so it is more powerful than the likes of the Mazda and the Megane. It's another very solid. This one here was probably one of the easier cars as well that I had to drive up this course. As I said, you know, because of the layout of this circuit, wheel spin is never really a problem in any of the vehicles aside from getting off the line. So the four-wheel drive is never really a massive advantage as such. It's another car a little bit down on power, maybe not quite the quickest sort of accelerating and so on, but still, you know, it's still a respectable time getting into the 48.0s there. Into 11th, and we have a Ford Falcon V8 Supercar, 46.7 for this vehicle. I do love the V8 Supercars. There was one of this generation actually at Goodwood this year. Sounds absolutely amazing. Sounds much better than the modern V8 Supercar. It was absolutely incredible. This was another car I expected to be a bit of a pain. I expected to have issues driving this car up the hill. Really didn't. I was pleasantly surprised by a few of these vehicles with, you know, cars that you're expecting to be absolutely terrifying monsters going up this course. I mean, look at how narrow this place is for ridiculous. I think about 600 horsepower in this car, and you've got very, very little margin for error. But the Falcon really was not that hard to drive and was very, very quick up the course. Into the top 10. In 10th we have got a NASCAR. Yeah, I had to have a go with one of these. Again, these cars were at the Goodwood Festival of Speed this year. They again sound absolutely incredible. I was fortunate enough to be standing next to the start line when they were sending these things down. Yeah, they're very, very noisy. Of course, NASCAR really not built for this particular course. Yes, they do race on road courses, and yes, a lot of Europeans don't understand that NASCARs can actually go round corners, but it's the gearing that's the real problem with them. I did have a little bit of a brake lock up as well. The gearing is the real problem. There's only a 4-speed in this, and the gearing is just not suited to this kind of course, and you do have to be careful with the brakes. They don't get stopped particularly well. This speed-wise, it's phenomenal. 850 horsepower in this car. As we come up towards the line, it's 137 miles an hour across it. A very fast car, but you are holding on for dear life a little bit through the turns with it. Into 9th, we have a Lister Storm V12 race car, 46.5 from this car. This vehicle set an pretty much identical time to that first intermediate as the Auto Union. So the Auto Union accelerates as fast as a Lister Storm race car. That's how quick that Auto Union was. Phenomenal for what it was. And to say, actually, I expected the Lister to be perhaps a little bit higher up the order. I do like these. I love the name. Lister Storm is such a fantastic name for a car. Yeah, I expected this to be a little bit higher, but it just didn't go particularly quickly. I say it is still a very, very fast lap, sort of the climb time, if you like. 600 horsepower in this vehicle. It's decent enough. It just wasn't quite as quick as I was sort of expecting, and yeah, as some of the other cars that will come. In 8th, we have a Lexus ISF Touring Car, 46.481 for this vehicle. This I do like the ISF Touring Car. Again, I think this is another sort of Gran Turismo tuned one, made into a touring car. We have got quite a lot of power in this one, 619 horsepower. It's more powerful than the Lister. It's yeah, got plenty of power, and another lovely easy car to drive this one. Yes, it may have some 600 horsepower and be rear-wheel drive. There's no real problems. To be fair, for any of these cars, I didn't have really that much oversteering problems. You could really throw this one through the flint wall, carry a lot of speed. I mean, we're getting up towards the 100-mile-an-hour mark now with chucking cars through the flint wall. That's a lot of speed for going into a pretty much blind corner and hoping that the car sticks to the road. Yeah, I was impressed with the speed of that car. Up next, we have got the HKS Time Attack Evo. You may well recognise this car. I'm not sure if it still does. It certainly held the record at Tsukuba for a while. You may well remember this from older Forza games. It was always an incredibly fast car. This thing, amazingly, this was one of the few vehicles that wasn't running on race tyres. This came with, I think it was Sport Soft tyres, were the tyres that the game gave this car by default. So getting this sort of time on them is, yeah, it's really rather impressive. Again, another vehicle that was relatively easy. No real problems with a Time Attack Evo. And the fact that it was on sport tyres, you really didn't feel it that much. Yeah, they were sport soft, and most of the cars were on race hard tyres. You really didn't feel that there was the tyres were that much worse. And yeah, it certainly set a pretty damn quick time. But the fastest of the road cars, and the fastest of the cars not on race tyres, the TVR Speed 12, 45.8. That's a ridiculously quick time. Again, this was another car that I thought was going to be horrendously difficult. Near enough 800 horsepower on sport tyres, and yeah, I thought I was going to be holding on for dear life. Certainly the fastest car here at a straight line, 151. I got it up to before slamming on the brakes. It is monstrously quick. My favourite of the hypercars, the Speed 12, and it wasn't as terrifying as a TVR would normally be. Again, through the flint wall, not quite as quick as the race cars, or you know, the sort of the Time Attack Evo, the Lexus ISF, and so on. It wasn't as quick through the flint wall there as them, but it was the quickest as we come up towards the finish line, flat out around the final corner, crossing the line at 141 miles an hour. It was just all of the speed in the TVR. Into the top 5 in 5th, the Camaro SS Touring Car, 45.3. I wasn't expecting this to go as quickly as it did. I was thinking this was going to be sort of a rival for the Lexus, you know, again, being very similar sort of vehicles, kind of the Gran Turismo tuned ones, and this has got less power than the Lexus, 575. It's still a lot of power, let's face it, but yeah, it is slightly less powerful. And as I get it just a tiny bit wrong, I had a slight wheel on the grass, just kept my foot down. It was yeah, sort of almost flat out through the flint wall. It was phenomenally fast through there. It wasn't quite the perfect run because of it going on the grass, but the rest of it was so bloody quick that yeah, I couldn't go faster. So it's a very quick car up this course. Again, I wasn't expecting it to go quite that quickly. Into 4th, the Lamborghini Diablo GT1 car. Fractionally faster than that Camaro. I was actually thinking this could be a contender for the fastest time. It was a little slower than I was expecting. This car, 591 horsepower. It's slightly more powerful than the Camaro, about the same weight as the Camaro. It's just, it wasn't that much faster. It was, I wouldn't say a disappointment. I mean, 45 is still bloody fast going up this course. But yeah, it wasn't quite as ridiculously quick as I was expecting. Yet it was. All of these cars now are going to be incredibly fast through the Flint Wall. We're talking around about the 100-mile-an-hour mark as you leave the corner, which is just sort of absurd amounts of speed. And across the line, it was on 130 miles an hour from the Lamborghini. Third place, we have got the Mercedes SLS AMG GT3 car with an almighty wing, 44.2 from this vehicle. Slightly down on power on the sort of the cars around it, 493 horsepower from this vehicle. But of course, we have all of the grip of a modern GT car. It is, yeah, there is lots and lots of grip through the turns. You can brake so late with this vehicle. Certainly on the early runs, I was having a few issues with braking far too early. That's, yeah, the standout characteristic of this car, if you like. You could brake so much later than a lot of the vehicles. And again, you can just flick it through the wall. It is a tiny dab on the brakes. It's, as I said before, the second to last quarter is one of the more terrifying ones. Because you kind of keep thinking you can carry a lot more speed into it, being completely blind, and yeah, you can't quite get away with it. Into second, we have got the Corvette Z06 LM car, 43.192, a second quicker than the GT3 Mercedes, but that's not perhaps too surprising, as this car has got 656 horsepower, 150 more than the Merc, and handles just as well. It's not exactly surprising then that this car would go a second quicker than the GT3 vehicle. Yeah, again, this was the car I think that went second. The second car that I drove up the hill and it went that quickly. Yes, I did have the traction control on for this car, but that only makes a slight difference. At the start, as you saw, bogged down horribly. So, yeah, that makes bugger all difference to the time. It was so fast through the Flint Wall and around the final corner to cross the line with 134 miles an hour, about the third quickest car up there, which is, yeah, impressive from the Corvette. But our victor, the Audi Quattro Pikes Peak, a 41.0, would, yeah, this is just such a ridiculous car. That's faster time than Heifeld's Formula 1 car went up here in whichever year it did. This is just an absurd vehicle. There is so much grip and so much acceleration in this car. 589 horsepower in this, and it uses it immediately out of the turns. It just accelerates so fast out of these turns. 110 miles an hour through here is the speed you can take in the Audi. It's utterly ridiculous around this course. Through the second to last corner, again, no problems, absolutely flat out through this final turn. It was a phenomenal vehicle, 138 miles an hour across the line, only beaten by the TVR. So there we go. The victor of the Goodwood hill climb is the Audi Quattro Pikes Peak car. Not massively surprised by that, but some of the order was certainly interesting. The Auto Union and the Oldsmobile were both far quicker and far less scary than I was expecting them. And to finish off, I decided just to mess about with the Skyline in the way that it was probably supposed to be driven. But yeah, it was really good fun seeing how these different cars. It is a shame that Gran Turismo is such a pain in the arse to earn money, so I couldn't really use. This was pretty much a combination of vehicles I had and spending what little money I had on some interesting and slightly different vehicles. It's a little shame that, yeah, it's not a better system, but there we go. Audi Quattro 41.0 is an impressive time, and it was very good fun. So it was actually remarkably easy to get that time as well with the Quattro. But that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.